Imagine walking into a Rolex boutique with $20,000 in your bank account. You've done the research, you've picked the exact watch you want, you tell the salesperson you're ready to buy it today. But instead of taking your payment, they smile and tell you no. Not because you can't afford it, not because the watch has been discontinued, but because they simply won't sell it to you. It sounds absurd. After all, what kind of business turns away customers who are ready to spend thousands of dollars? Yet this happens every single day in Rolex boutiques around the world. And here's where the story gets even stranger. Rolex produces well over 1 million watches every year. That's more luxury watches than almost any other premium Swiss brand. So why does it seem almost impossible to buy one? Where do they all go? Is Rolex genuinely unable to keep up with demand, or is something else happening behind the scenes? Most people believe the shortage is caused by incredible craftsmanship. They imagine master watchmakers slowly assembling every piece by hand, unable to produce enough to satisfy millions of eager buyers. It's a believable explanation, but it isn't the real one. In fact, the reason Rolex is always sold out has far less to do with manufacturing than most people realize. The shortage isn't just a consequence of success, it's one of the most powerful business strategies ever created. Because Rolex isn't really selling watches, they're selling something far more valuable: status. And status only exists when not everyone can have it. That's why people willingly wait years for a product they could technically afford today. It's why the same watch often sells for thousands more on the secondary market than it does at retail. And it's why simply owning a Rolex has become a symbol recognized in nearly every country on Earth. But none of this happened by accident. Over the past century, Rolex quietly built a system that transformed an ordinary consumer product into one of the most desired luxury items ever made. A system so effective that even competitors with equally impressive craftsmanship struggle to replicate it. It's a strategy built on psychology, patience, exclusivity, and one simple principle that most businesses are too afraid to embrace. The surprising part? It actually starts by saying no. Every empty display case, every waiting list, every customer who leaves disappointed, every viral story about someone being unable to buy a Rolex, they're all part of a cycle that keeps the brand more desirable than ever. And the more impossible Rolex becomes to own, the more people want one. So the question isn't why Rolex is always sold out. The real question is, why would one of the world's most successful companies ever want to be? If Rolex wanted to, it could almost certainly sell far more watches than it does today. Demand has remained extraordinarily high for years, and many of its most popular models have waiting lists stretching months or even years. From a traditional business perspective, the solution seems obvious: increase production, fill the shelves, and make more money. But Rolex doesn't operate like a traditional business. Instead of chasing every possible sale, the company protects something far more valuable than short-term revenue: perceived exclusivity. Think about the last time you wanted something that was difficult to get. Maybe it was sold out, available only in limited quantities, or required waiting months to own. Chances are the scarcity didn't reduce your interest, it amplified it. Suddenly the product felt more special, more desirable, more worth pursuing. Rolex understands this better than almost anyone. When people hear that a watch is impossible to buy, they don't usually think, "I'll just buy something else." Instead, many become even more determined to own that exact watch. The waiting list itself becomes proof that the product is worth waiting for. That's because humans naturally assign greater value to things that appear scarce. Psychologists call this the scarcity principle. When access becomes limited, our brains often interpret the item as more valuable, even if the product itself hasn't changed. Rolex has spent decades creating an environment where scarcity reinforces prestige. Walk into many authorized dealers, and you'll often find beautiful displays filled with exhibition models that aren't actually for sale. The watches are there to be admired, photographed, and desired, but not necessarily purchased. It's an unusual retail experience. Imagine walking into a luxury car dealership where every vehicle on the showroom floor had a sign that read, "Not available." For most companies, that would be a disaster. For Rolex, it's marketing. Every customer who leaves empty-handed tells someone about it. Friends hear the story, social media spreads it, online forums debate it. Without spending $1 on those conversations, Rolex gains something incredibly valuable: attention. And attention fuels desire. But the scarcity isn't just about production, it's also about distribution. Rolex doesn't sell directly to customers through its own online store. Instead, it relies on a carefully controlled network of authorized dealers. Those dealers receive limited allocations of specific models, often without knowing exactly when the next shipment will arrive. Even if a dealer wants to satisfy every customer, they simply can't. That uncertainty creates another powerful effect. Buyers begin building relationships with dealers, hoping to improve their chances of receiving the call. Some purchase less popular models first, others buy jewelry or accessories. Many simply wait, hoping their patience will eventually be rewarded. At first glance, it seems irrational. Why would anyone spend more money just for the opportunity to spend even more? Because by this point, the purchase is no longer just about telling time, it's about earning access. And that's exactly where Rolex's strategy becomes brilliant. The watch isn't just valuable because of the materials inside it, it's valuable because owning one signals that you were able to obtain something millions of other people couldn't. But here's where the story takes an even more unexpected turn. The people making Rolex even more valuable aren't Rolex at all, they're the customers themselves. If scarcity creates desire, the secondary market turns that desire into proof. Imagine buying a product for $15,000 today, wearing it for 2 years, and then selling it for $20,000. That sounds backwards. Most luxury purchases lose value the moment you leave the store. Drive a new luxury car off the lot, and it immediately begins depreciating. Expensive clothing, handbags, and electronics follow the same pattern. Many Rolex watches don't. In fact, some of the brand's most sought-after models have sold for well above their original retail prices. While prices fluctuate with the market, the perception remains remarkably powerful. Buying a Rolex isn't just spending money, it can feel like parking wealth on your wrist. That perception changes everything. People who might never have considered buying a luxury watch suddenly begin viewing Rolex differently. It's no longer just jewelry, it's no longer just craftsmanship. It's something that appears to hold value and sometimes even appreciate. Whether someone buys one for passion, status, or investment, the result is the same. Demand grows. And as demand grows, so does the mythology surrounding the brand. Online communities analyze every new release. Waiting list stories spread across social media. Videos about how to get a Rolex attract millions of views. Every conversation reinforces the same message: this is a watch worth chasing. Ironically, Rolex doesn't need to tell people its watches are valuable. The market does it for them. That's one of the company's greatest competitive advantages. Instead of relying on aggressive advertising to convince people they should want a Rolex, the behavior of existing customers becomes the advertisement. When someone waits 2 years for a watch, everyone else assumes it must be worth waiting for. When someone pays thousands above retail, everyone else assumes it must be worth more than retail. When celebrities, athletes, entrepreneurs, and world leaders wear Rolex, they reinforce decades of carefully built prestige without saying a word. Each new owner becomes part of the brand's marketing machine. But perhaps the most fascinating part of Rolex's strategy is that it doesn't actually appeal to logic. From a purely functional perspective, a smartphone tells more accurate time. A digital watch offers more features. Plenty of Swiss brands produce extraordinary mechanical movements with equal or greater complexity. Yet Rolex continues to dominate public perception. Why? Because luxury has never been about utility, it's about identity. People don't buy a Rolex because they need one. They buy it because of what it represents. Success, achievement, discipline, recognition. For some, it's a reward after landing a dream job. For others, it's a reminder of years spent building a business. Some receive one to celebrate a major milestone. Others simply want to own a symbol that the world instantly recognizes. The watch becomes a story people tell themselves, and sometimes a story they hope others will see. Rolex understands that emotional connection better than almost any company on earth. They're not competing against other watches, they're competing for a place in your mind, and once a brand reaches that level, something remarkable happens. People stop asking, is it worth the price? They start asking, how do I get one? That's the moment a product transforms into a cultural icon, and Rolex has been living in that world for decades. The genius of Rolex isn't that it builds exceptional watches. Plenty of companies do that. The real genius is that Rolex built a system where every part strengthens the next. Scarcity creates demand. Demand creates waiting lists. Waiting lists create exclusivity. Exclusivity fuels the secondary market. And the secondary market reinforces the belief that owning a Rolex is different from owning almost anything else. It's a cycle that feeds itself. Most businesses spend their lives trying to remove friction. They want products available everywhere, inventory always in stock, and customers able to buy with a single click. Rolex chose the opposite approach. It accepted friction because the right kind of friction increases perceived value. That's a lesson that extends far beyond watches. The world's strongest brands rarely compete by being the easiest to buy. They compete by becoming the hardest to replace. Think about the names that dominate luxury. They don't simply sell products, they sell stories, they sell identity. They sell belonging to a group that feels exclusive. The product is only one piece of the experience. Rolex mastered that long before social media existed. For more than a century, the company has remained privately owned, avoiding the pressure to maximize quarterly profits at the expense of long-term brand equity. Instead of flooding the market during periods of booming demand, it protected the one thing competitors couldn't easily copy: desire. Because once desire disappears, luxury disappears with it. That's why the empty display cases aren't signs of failure. They're signs of discipline. Every customer who walks out without the watch they wanted leaves with one thought lingering in their mind: I still want it. And that's an incredibly powerful position for any brand to hold. Of course, no strategy is perfect. Waiting lists can frustrate loyal customers, encourage speculative buying, and create opportunities for gray market dealers to profit. But despite those downsides, Rolex has accomplished something businesses in every industry dream about. It made people value access almost as much as the product itself. In a world where nearly everything can be delivered overnight, Rolex reminds us that the rarest luxury isn't speed, it's patience. So the next time you hear someone say that Rolex is always sold out, remember that you're not just looking at a supply problem, you're looking at one of the most successful branding strategies ever created. Because in luxury, the goal was never to sell everyone a watch. The goal was to make everyone want one. And judging by the waiting lists, the conversations, and the relentless demand more than a century after the company was founded, that strategy is still working.